listening to the Marketing and Yoga Pants podcast, a podcast in sisterhood for female entrepreneurs that serves up savvy, actionable marketing advice and interviews with creative business owners who are in the trenches, building their businesses as we speak. The Marketing and Yoga Pants community is for you, the girl on her couch, in her yoga pants, top knot tight, hunched over her MacBook, trying her hardest to get the word out about her business. So in the name of supporting each other while supporting ourselves, bringing community, sound marketing advice, coffee, chocolate, and wine together for you, yoga pants wearing business owner, in a world where followers mean nothing, but paying customers mean the world, join us on this week's podcast episode and in our private Facebook group where you'll meet your soul sisters and build your business in yoga pants. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Marketing and Yoga Pants podcast. I'm Brit, Kolo, and I'm here today with just myself. This is the one I think a lot of you have been waiting for. This podcast episode is going to be all about my month off, my sabbatical. So here's what's coming at you. I am going to review a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just going to riff on this entire experience, try to give you everything about it so you can potentially glean some wisdom and some takeaways and maybe even consider taking some time off yourself. So I would love to review how and why I made the decision to take an entire month off, how that decision was made, different things that I changed about that decision along the way. I'll give you some logistics of what I had in place when I did take my month off so you can get a really true picture of what that looked like while I was gone, how the sabbatical actually went down. I mean, like week by week, how it all worked, the takeaways that I gleaned from the experience, and then also how it's been getting back to work now that I've been back for a few days, almost a week now. Okay, so let's dive in here. So I decided that I was going to take a month off in 2018, way back pretty soon after I got engaged, which was in October 2017. So I got engaged, super exciting time. We set our date for October 6th, 2018, and we knew that we wanted to take a pretty lengthy honeymoon. We didn't want it to just be a couple days or even a week. We wanted to extend it. And so when I was looking at the calendar, I realized if the wedding is the 6th of October and we'll probably be gone for the next 2 weeks on our honeymoon, there's only a little bit of time left in October, about a week and a half. And I mean, why couldn't I just take that time off too? You know, I mean, who knows? We might even extend the honeymoon longer. I don't know. So I started chewing on this idea of, you know, the wedding's going to happen, then the honeymoon, and pretty much by then October is gone. So I could potentially just take the entire month off. And I started thinking about that. And then it wasn't really decided that I was going to do that yet. I hadn't fully decided, but I was just starting to imagine what could that actually look like. And at that time, at the end of 2017, I was primarily a coach. I had not created marketing personalities yet. So I did not have any scalable products yet. Now I do, but back then I was solely a coach. And my coaching practice was great. I mean, I had really great clients, as I always have. And I was thinking, okay, so if I'm going to take a month off, what does that mean for my coaching clients at that time? And if I have any other like programs or clients that my ego kind of chimed in and was telling me things like, well, but they need you. Like, you can't just leave for an entire month. How are you going to leave for a month when you have clients who need you and are on a certain track? And what if someone wants to launch something in October and then you're not there for them? And then they have to edit their timeline. And isn't that a little selfish, right? So like all of this is going through my head. And while that was happening, I had an opportunity to get on a live mastermind call with some random strangers on the internet. And it was curated by Sarah at Kick-Ass Mastermind. So you guys hear me talk about her all the time, right? So this was my first mastermind experience. And it was with just two other people. And my question that I brought to that call was, okay, I'm thinking about taking a month off. How in the world do I do that? And going into it, I thought, okay, I think I kind of know how I could do this. I could bring on other associate coaches, even just another associate coach, train that person to essentially be me and start possibly kind of like a coaching agency, right? And so then I could leave and my clients could still be coached and everyone would be happy. So I went into that call thinking that that might be the direction I wanted to go. And on the call, I'm so grateful for this. On the call, pretty much everyone involved said, yeah, I mean, I guess you could do that, but what if you just take the month off? Like, what if you just let your clients know that that was going to happen? They don't get coached that month. You give them stuff to do while you're gone, and then you come back in November and everybody's good. And that just totally blew me away. I was like, wait, I could do that? And then also someone on the call mentioned, think about what kind of message that might give to your clients. It might empower them as well to take some time off and not push themselves to always be creating and producing and showing up, and just to give them permission to rest. And when she said that, I thought, oh, I want to do that. That is super cool. Can I actually do that? So that kind of reframed what taking a month off could look for me. And basically the idea was, wait, actually, this could actually be pretty simple, right? I could just let my clients know, and then I leave, and then I come back, right? It could be super simple like that. At that point, I allowed it to be easy. I allowed it to be simple, and I put it in my calendar. And I said, okay, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I'm going to take the entire month of October off in 2018. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but at that point, it was right around the beginning of the year. I'm like, I'll figure it out, right? I've got quite a few months. I can figure this out. So then I go into my year. You guys know, if you've been listening, you've followed this over time. I've given you peeks into the different evolutions that my business has gone through just in the past 10 months, just this year. It's been pretty crazy. So I get into all that evolution, the realization of this framework that I've built around marketing personalities, and then getting attached to, wait, this thing needs to live outside of my spreadsheet on my MacBook and outside of the one-on-one conversations I'm having. And so I just got super fired up and I brought that to life. And all of a sudden it was the end of June and I was launching marketing personalities. Okay, this is awesome. I have some scalable products here and I'm still coaching. Okay, this is cool. And I went on a week-long vacation with my family in July, and I realized, holy smokes, I can't even be unplugged and out of my business for a week. What in the world am I going to do on this month-long sabbatical? It kind of just crept up on me. I had all these ideas for sure, and I had talked with my assistant and a couple other people of what to get in place and how to be prepared. And I think I was getting my mind kind of prepared, but in the middle of July, my business was not prepared for it. I mean, there wasn't anything there in place to support a month off. That kind of kicked me in the butt a little bit to say, all right, now's the time to get this in order. And I initially had all these plans. I was going to have everything perfectly planned out. It was going to be awesome. It was going to be like I wasn't even gone, right? It's like our ego chimes in and tells us that that's how it needs to be done. And then I just realized that I don't really have to be that important. It's just a month. I mean, really, it's just like this little blip in the timeline. It's so small. And I have this other big, huge life change happening at the same time. I got married And yes, I planned the wedding myself and all of that. And I realized that, this could be way simpler. It does not have to be this logistical nightmare and all of this excessive energy just to be able to take some time off. So while I went in thinking that, not even thinking, I was saying out loud to my fiance at the time, my family, my mom, my friends, I was saying, listen, I'm getting the wedding stuff in order. I'm getting my business stuff in order. And if you need anything from me in the month of September, just forget it, because I am going to just be all out, just doing all the things, because that's the only way I can see this all working together. So September, I'm just going to go all out. I'm probably not going to sleep. I'm just going to cram everything in, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to work. And that's the plan. I can sit now here and laugh at that. But at the time, it seemed really like the answer. And then I got to about the mid to end of August, and I was so exhausted. I hadn't even hit September yet, and I was so tired. Things were just shifting. There was so much going on in my heart and in my soul, and the visions that I was having for my business, and my network was changing, and I was seeing this incredible thing that I had put out into the world, marketing personalities. I could see the implications and the potentials of it. And it just, all of it all at once, right? And I realized that going really hard in September was not the answer. If you've listened to the episode that I had with Sarah Peck of Startup Pregnant, that interview happened at the end of September. I wish it would have happened before, but it hit me at the right time there at the end of September as well. But she really hit it home when she said that the answer is not to cram everything in order to take time off. The answer is really to make those difficult decisions about what really matters and what doesn't, and only do the things that really actually matter. If you feel like you're cramming things in just to be able to take time off, you're probably doing things that don't actually need to be done. And that's a red flag. You could be doing this in a healthier way. And you can choose to continue to cram, right? We can all choose to do this in whatever way we want. And I'm not getting here on the microphone saying that this is the only way to do a sabbatical. I'm just sharing with you my experience. I chose at the end of August, when I was exhausted and I looked at my September and I'm like, this is just too much. I chose to get hyper intentional about what really needed to be done and what didn't need to be done. And I started kind of putting on my armor, putting up boundaries around what got into my head, got onto my calendar, and what did not need to be there. And that triaging, if you will, that triaging effect made my sabbatical better. And I believe that it made my business better in the long run as well. And that's very much of what Sarah had shared with me, and really brought it full circle and made me realize that if you choose to not cram and you choose to go maybe the more difficult route in the beginning, but definitely the better route in the end, at least for me, to make those difficult decisions are exactly what is going to make your business stronger in the long run. And that's what I did. So I started triaging. I actually had a list of all the things that I felt like I needed to do before October 1st, before the first day of my sabbatical. And then I went through that list and I plucked out all the things that actually didn't need to be done. I put them on a separate list, and that list was it said right at the top, for after sabbatical. And when I got really ruthless about what needed to be done, what didn't need to be done, my list went from like 3 pages long to like 6 things. And I'm not even exaggerating. That's how incredibly helpful that triaging effect really, really happened. So that is what got me to basically the beginning of September. And then in September, I was putting the final touches on the wedding. I was trying still to be a good human in the world, and I was trying to get ready for this sabbatical. And so what I did decide needed to be done in my business, this isn't me projecting, this is what I decided needed to still happen in September. I scheduled my social media posts for both Instagram and Facebook for the month of October while I was gone. And those social media posts kind of led up to the wedding. And then I shared the content that was going to be going live in the month of October. That content consisted of 2 blog posts that I had already written, and then a webinar that I had already recorded. So I wrote those 2 blog posts, I recorded that webinar, and I scheduled it all out in my blog, in my email, and in social. And I don't know, from your point of view, you might be like, dang, that's still a lot. From my point of view, that felt very minimal, because apart from the regularly scheduled content that I do every month, there are all of these ideas that come to me about how to make everything better. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably like this too. You are creative, you create these things, and then once it's out in the world, you already have your eyes set on the next milestone and the next way to make it better. And I essentially had to pull myself away from that vision for a minute and say, vision, I see you. You will happen. You're not going to happen this month. And that's okay. And I had to kind of coach myself through that. I had to remind myself at every turn, it felt like every hour, that just because those improvements weren't happening in September and then therefore wouldn't happen in October, I had to coach myself and tell myself that that was actually an asset. That was going to give me the time and space I needed to absorb and consider and intuitively work through things instead of just having the idea and putting it in play, because that is very much my natural tendency, is to like have the idea, put it in play, have the idea, put it in play. And it's not comfortable for me to pull back and not put something into play. But I was coaching myself all September, like, this break is good for you. Just chew on what you've been working on right now. You don't have to put anything into play. Not comfortable, not easy for me, but that is what I decided to do. And I am truly glad that I did that, because I did need space. I very much needed space. The other thing logistically that I had in place before I left was I had my assistant have all of my emails forwarded to her. So all of my business related emails would go to my assistant, and she was essentially checking for fires. She was just making sure that if someone had a question, they not only would get my autoresponder email, but if she could help them sooner than November 1st, then she could help them. And then for the things that she couldn't really help with, and they really needed me, then she would at least pop in there and say, hey, Brit's going to definitely get to this when she gets back. That just kind of that extra touch point. I don't really want to skip ahead here, but I'll just tell you, because you might be sitting there thinking, well, I don't have an assistant. Do I need to have an assistant to take a sabbatical? Answer is absolutely not. You do not need one. I mean, I loved having one, and that certainly helped, but you don't need someone checking your email. Let me tell you right now, there were no fires. There were literally no fires. All of the people that came through my inbox in the month of October could have just waited, and no one would have been upset. Okay. Yeah, it was great to have her on board to provide, a little bit of customer service here and there, but we are not brain surgeons, right? We're not brain surgeons. We don't have a pager. We are not needed immediately. Sometimes in the moment it feels like we are, and sometimes we like to believe that we are, because that really helps our ego. But in reality, trust me, nothing is going to burn to the ground. And if it does, if your business or a situation within your business burns to the ground without you there, you have a very shaky business. You'll need to look at that. I definitely suggest you look at that and imagine how that could be less of a house of cards and set more on a more solid foundation, right? So in my experience, having my assistant there to check through the emails was helpful. It gave me a sense of peace around it for sure while I was away, knowing that she could handle it. Even if she couldn't physically handle it, she could at least communicate and say, hey, we're going to handle this as soon as Brit gets back. But I don't know if it was even really needed. So that's kind of cool. All right. So that was all the getting ready for the sabbatical. I haven't even told you what happened yet. Oh my gosh. It's crazy, right? But I told you, I wanted to give you a really clear and super transparent look at how this all unfolded. And so that's what happened before. And then I got to October 1st. October 1st was my first day of my sabbatical. Going into the sabbatical, you might have thought I was a little worried. I don't know if I was a little worried. I really needed rest. I really did. I mean, I needed rest from all of it. And so while I do tend to have workaholic tendencies and a little type A, I think I'm moving away from some of those tendencies in this phase of my life. And I really was looking forward to it. At that point, I didn't have any hesitations. I was like, okay, I am so ready to get married. Like, let's do this. I can't wait to go on my honeymoon. And I cannot wait to just not work for a while, which is crazy. Oh, I think the semi-old Brittany, who put a lot of connection to her worth into what she did every day, would be like, what? That's crazy that you're even saying that. But I think I'm growing a little bit out of that phase and moving into one where I realize work is not everything and I am not my work. And so I was totally cool with just stepping away, which was great. That's a sign of some personal growth there for me. That's how I view it. So cool. So the first week of my sabbatical was basically just a huge countdown to the wedding, right? I was doing final walkthroughs, checking with vendors, all of that. I did have a couple blissful moments. One that really sticks out was it was the very first day, Monday, October 1st, and I decided to go get chicken tacos and a glass of wine and sit out on a deck by a river. And it felt really nice. I mean, it was a Monday afternoon, the week before my wedding. And I was like, hey, I'm pretty chill right now. This is great. I wasn't freaking out, which felt really good. And then before you knew it, it was Friday, we were rehearsing, and then it was Saturday and it was wedding day. And I am not saying this to brag, but I am telling you what, my wedding day was literally perfect from beginning to end. It was the coolest day ever. It was so good. Then, we walked into the next phases of our lives, and it was Sunday. We came home, we got ready for the honeymoon, and then on that next Tuesday, we left for our honeymoon. Never thinking about work. I will tell you that right now. I did not think about work until about midway through the month. So at this point, it was October 9th. We headed out and we went first to Scottsdale. We spent a couple nights in Scottsdale. Then we drove from Scottsdale up to southern Utah. And on the way, we stopped in Sedona. We went to Antelope Canyon in Arizona. And then we stayed in southern Utah. And then for the next couple of days, we went to the Grand Canyon. We hit Zion National Park. We ate really good food and drove everywhere and saw a lot of cool wildlife. And it was just, I can't put it into words. I mean, I've tried, but it was so great. And then from southern Utah, we drove over to Vegas, spent a couple nights in Vegas. And I mean, at this point, we were just going all out. I was so in the moment for sure. And I know my brand new husband was too. And we were just enjoying the heck out of all of it, right? Like we were just seeing all these things and doing all these things. We went on some hikes and some tours and took so many pictures and videos and just, it was just so good. And we were just going kind of a mile a minute, which we both tend to do. And it was great, living it up. And then after Vegas, we went just outside of Vegas and spent the last 3 days of our honeymoon at a resort on Lake Las Vegas. And everything stopped. Everything slowed down. And at this point, it was mid-month, mid-October. Everything got quiet. This resort is very much made for relaxation and quiet outside of the city of Vegas. It's what it's made for. And that's why we booked it, because we thought, like, oh, after all that, we're going to want to relax by the pool and the lake and stuff like that. Well, definitely for both of us, that slowing down kind of smacked us in the face a little bit. We're like, what do we do now? Other than try not to go crazy and bored out of our minds. Because we both are doers. I mean, we're just constantly moving and doing and finding the next thing. And at first it was totally uncomfortable. I was journaling through all of this, so I can kind of go back to those thoughts and feelings. And what happened in those moments of things slowing down, there wasn't anything to distract me from life anymore. I mean, we were just hanging out at the pool and going for a walk and hanging out and just watching movies, just quiet. There weren't very many people around. I didn't even begin. It was just like a flood came into my mind of all the things that my wedding and my honeymoon had kept me distracted from. The fact that I'm an entrepreneur and I don't get paid time off. And I haven't been working for the past 2 weeks. And I'm probably missing out on things like FOMO came in and opportunity, like the thought of opportunity is kind of passing me by because I wasn't plugged in. So yeah, that flood of thoughts definitely came in. And I was trying really hard to coach myself through it. Like, be strong. You're actually not as needed as you think you are. Like, tamper that ego down. You're not missing anything. This is a blessing. What can this quiet teach you, right? Find something else to do. And long story short, what I did in that moment, it was an afternoon. I could not stay in the hotel room anymore and watch movies. Like, I just couldn't. So I threw on a cute dress and I curled my hair and I went downstairs with my iPad and my notebook and I bought a coffee. And I sat in a big, huge, expensive armchair in the lobby of the resort. And I tried to brain dump what I was feeling. And I did. And part of that was that I just felt out of place. I realized how unproductive I felt. And this was really the first time that I had felt unproductive in this experience. And I reflected and I realized, like, I knew that this wasn't going to feel good. I knew that this would feel uncomfortable because I'm constantly trying to produce. So, okay, not the end of the world. So once I saw that on the screen, I realized, wait a second, okay, this actually isn't a problem. Was totally expected. It's all good. And I started viewing it as an exercise and an opportunity to practice just being and not doing. Harder than it would seem, but it was an opportunity for me to practice that. And as soon as I released that pressure to produce, this stream of consciousness wave started flowing out of me. I grabbed my notebook with my favorite pen and I just started writing all of the ideas, like idea after idea after idea, moment of clarity, all these connecting thoughts, and it just flowed out of me. It's one of those things, and I'm sure you've probably had these experiences before, and you want to create them for yourself, but it's one of those things that you have to kind of be hit with. You can't force it. It just happened because it was allowed to happen. It just flowed through me, and I thought, oh, okay, big, deep sigh of relief. Okay, it's still me in there. I'm okay. I still have ideas. I still have ways to contribute to the world. I'm not going to put them into play right now. I'm not going to produce or act on these ideas, but there's still that creativity and goodness in there. And it was a level of creativity and clarity and intuition that I don't know that I could have gotten to amidst all the noise of my regular work schedule and my regular life. This had to happen outside of that. That is why a sabbatical is so, so key. I got through those 3 days feeling much better after that stream of consciousness. Not totally comfortable. I still had a bit of unease. I definitely had the pull to jump back into social media and jump back into my email and all of those things, but I didn't. I resisted it. Again, I saw it as an opportunity to practice some restraint, and I did that. And then we came home. It felt super good to come home to my fur babies, my dog and my cat, and just be in my comfortable environment again. And truly, this 4th week, once we came home from the honeymoon, I expected this 4th week to be the most difficult because it was the week where I knew my husband was going to go back to work, and I was just going to be home with my MacBook within the 4 walls of my house. Like, my MacBook was going to be accessible for the first time, really. And I didn't know if I was strong enough to stay out of it. So what ended up happening in this 4th week was way better than I expected. This actually was, I can't compare it to my wedding and my honeymoon because those were amazing. But this week was one of my favorite parts of my sabbatical experience because it was so different from what I expected. I thought that I would come home and be really pulled toward my computer and toward work, and I wasn't. I just wasn't at all. I was just like, you know what? This actually feels really good. I started realizing how cool it was to have some breathing room for once and some time and some ability to be in the present moment, even at home when I wasn't really distracted. That felt really good. That really helped my confidence a bit. As I wrote it in my journal, I said that I had ideas, but no agenda. So I had ideas of how to spend my time, but I didn't plan it all out. I just kind of let the day unfold as it needed to. Not my normal, but that's what I did. I went grocery shopping. I made some really good meals. I took an online creative writing class taught by Judy Bloom. So massively suggest and recommend this class or this type of class. It was hosted by this company called Masterclass. It's masterclass.com. And it has all of these really well-known experts, and they do a masterclass. They give you an entire course on whatever their expertise is in. And I chose creative writing because I really wanted to just try my hand at it again. I have very limited experience, and it's always kind of called my name, but it's not been something that in my usual schedule I give myself the permission to dabble in. And so I thought this was a great time to dabble. There were a couple creative writing classes to choose from. I chose the one from Judy Bloom. That one just really spoke to me, and I flew through it in a day, and then now I've been doing the exercises as I can. That was such a great day. I watched some Netflix. I caught up on the latest season of Call the Midwife, which I love. And that's what I did for a week. And as far as work went, my mind was pulled back to business in a way, but it wasn't pulled back to work. Those two things are different. So my mind was pulled back to business in a CEO level way. Like, I was visioning and I was thinking about the big picture, and I was reflecting on what had happened, and I was aspiring for what I wanted to have happen in the next year, those types of things. But I wasn't pulled back to the work and the actual doing of the work. It was very much more big picture. And so I let myself work through some visioning exercises, lots of journal prompts, that sort of thing. But I didn't get back into the work, which felt great. I also, during this time of between the honeymoon and then actually getting back to work on November 1st, I felt really tired. And I wrote about this in my journal, word for word. This is what I said. I said, I feel sleepy, very sleepy. Maybe I just need to rest today. And then my mind thinks, more rest? Are you kidding? You haven't worked for 25 days and you want more rest? this voice came in like, who are you to need more rest? Like, are you kidding me right now? Everyone is working. They can't nap. And yet you want to take a nap in the middle of the day and you haven't worked. That's a really abrasive voice coming up, right? That was my inner critic voice. And then I went on in my journal and I said, well, yeah, I do. I'm tired. I don't want to face anything else today. I just want a nap. I see what needs to be done and I don't want to do it. So I want to sit in this for today until it's out of me. I want to sleep. And I did. I slept. I took a really long nap that day and I continued to sleep a lot and rest. That realization, that really helped me realize that even when I haven't worked for almost a month, I still get tired and I still get annoyed and I still get a little antisocial and all the less than pretty things I feel when I am keeping a full-time work schedule. So if I need rest now after 25 days of not working, I definitely need it while I am working, right? And there's no shame in that. I think really I needed way more rest than I thought I needed. And it's not until you pump the brakes, actually not even pump the brakes, you like slam on the brakes and you stop and you let yourself rest. Until you do that, you don't even realize how much rest you need. And then you need even more. So I definitely had that wake up call. And that then led me into the last few days of my sabbatical. I was trying to imagine what it would be and feel like to incorporate more rest and more sabbatical-like lifestyle into my everyday lifestyle. Big question, but I've definitely been chewing on that for the past couple of days and weeks. And then I got to just the day or two before I was going to go back to work, and I started spiraling. This is a totally transparent moment for you. I definitely started spiraling. I started having this voice, this internal dialogue about how scared I was that this business that I was building wasn't actually going to work. I mean, I realized this voice was not anchored in reality. It was just all of these fears came up, right? Which, I mean, we all go through. And that's why I'm sharing it with you. All this energy came up of like, this might not work. Like you're putting all of your eggs in this basket, this idea, and it might be a total flop. Like, are you sure it even holds value? All of this like really critical stuff. And so then I started coming up with a million ideas to do instead, right? Like these side projects and side ideas. And the whole time I'm wondering, wait, are these ideas like good ideas or are they just a distraction? Would they be a good use of my time? Would they help me be better in my main business? Or are they just a huge distraction? Like all of this spiraling and ping-ponging and just not good energy. And then I realized once I got through those couple of days and I tapped into my inner circle network, other female business owners, and I shared this with them, I asked them to hold space for me in walking back into work and hopefully working out of this spiral. And then I woke up on November 1st, having gone to bed the night before, completely miserable, completely on edge, just not in good vibes. And I woke up the next morning and I realized that while I may have feared my sabbatical coming to an end, and I may have feared, or maybe I was losing that time of my life. I mean, I had worked forward to October. It was almost like I have no idea what's happening after October because so much of my energy was all on what's happening in October. And then October came to an end. And, once I realized that, I thought, well, that totally makes sense of why I was spiraling. That was just, a defense mechanism. And now I can walk into November and see what happens. And I don't have to have it all figured out. And I don't have to go a mile a minute. Let's see how I can bake some of that sabbatical-like energy into now and into my day-to-day, my week-to-week, my month-to-month schedule. And I can't say that I have the answers to that, like how that's going to really look for me. I do recognize the massive shifts that happened in my time away that I'm convinced could not have happened within my regular schedule. Had I not taken that full month away, I'm totally, fully convinced that those shifts would not have happened. So I certainly see the value in taking time away. I'm thinking I'll take some really intentional time off in December around the holidays. And I'm also thinking about even the times when I'm away for a week, like on a family vacation, or even just a few days if we happen to go somewhere for an event or a wedding or whatever. I don't need to feel the pressure of staying plugged in just those few days off. I can choose to stay plugged in, but I can also choose to not, right? And that was a choice I wasn't sure of before, and now I'm fully sure. Like, I'm sure that I can choose one or the other. It's not so much I have to show up, it's me choosing to show up or not. And for sure, this sabbatical thing, it's pretty rad. And I want to do another one without a reason, right? Because this one had a major reason, and I want to explore the possibility of taking a month off in 2019 without this big, huge, fat reason that somehow justifies it in your mind. I want to see how far I can stretch myself to simply take time off and be without like the logical explanation of why I'm taking it off, other than because I'm a human and I can and I probably need to. Those are the thoughts that are forming now, post sabbatical. And I also have to mention this time that I was away, I wasn't just outside of work. I was not plugged in to social media. I posted on Facebook the day after my wedding because, you do that. You share a couple pictures. Okay. And I wasn't plugged into Instagram at all. So I didn't have Facebook or Instagram on my phone during the sabbatical. And I never once checked in to my business Instagram accounts. That may seem big to you. That may seem small to you. For me, that was a big deal because I will be the first to say I was extremely addicted to Instagram before my sabbatical. And so to just go cold turkey like that was a big step for me. That was big. And through that experience of being unplugged, I am 100% a better person to the other people in my life when I'm not as attached to social media. I simply am. And I think our hesitation to unplug from social media, even for a day, I think part of that hesitation comes from a worry of becoming even more lonely than we already are. And when we have Instagram or Facebook or whatever your drug of choice is, when you have that crutch to grab anytime you feel a little lonely or stagnant, it mimics the idea or the thought in your head that you're not alone, but in reality, you still are. And I think that crutch of social media makes the problem worse. In my experience, being away from those crutches for so long, I recognize that instead of grabbing Instagram, like grabbing my phone to look at Instagram, because I couldn't do that, and I still kind of felt lonely and like I needed somebody, I actually texted a human being, or I called them on the phone, or I went and visited them in real life, in person. Big deal. That's a huge shift. And so if you're a little worried about what it would feel like to go away from social media for even a day, let alone a couple weeks or a month, I encourage you to just try it and observe your behaviors without that crutch. And then once you've observed those, you have an opportunity to choose how you want to use that potential crutch in the future. So it just helps you become educated on your own actions and reactions and responses, and then you can make better decisions moving forward. I mean, and I'll be quite frank, I was kind of pumped to get back to Instagram. I was really pumped to get back to Instagram and engage with the people that I had come to enjoy engaging with on Instagram. And then I got addicted again. no joke. Like I moved right back into my old patterns. And so now, I don't know, at this time I'm recording this, it's been about a week since I've been back. And now I'm reevaluating my boundaries with social media yet again. And my phone, like just straight up my phone, because I slipped into old habits, which then created this slippery slope back into old thought patterns too. And those were the thought patterns that I was trying to break through my sabbatical. This feels big for me. And so I can't help but think, what lessons and aha moments and light bulb and shifts and growth is waiting for you and all of us the next time we choose to take some time off. Take some time off from work, take some time off from being plugged in, whatever that is for you. It's interesting. For me, it's worthwhile. So that's what it's been like. Holy smokes. I took a month off. It's a funny thing. When I was right before I got back to work, I was sharing with my inner circle. I have all this spiraling thoughts and I just think, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, just not good energy. And one of my business friends, my mastermind friends, was like, Brit, you took a month off. Like, you can choose to celebrate right now because that is not a small thing. And it was a huge wake up call for me. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're totally right. Like, I could be celebrating this time. I think that really helped me then wake up the next morning and be like, this is something to celebrate. This is super cool. You can feel good about what you just did or didn't do, right? And that really, really helped. So I feel super grateful that I was even able to record this podcast episode because I really did take a month off and I feel awesome about that. I will say, before I left, as I was preparing for the sabbatical, I gave everyone a heads up, right? You probably heard it if you were around at that point. And a couple people reached out on Instagram and different places like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You're probably going to come back with like so much fire and so much, you're going to be so much more productive and all that. No shame to those people who thought in that direction, but those comments and those thoughts made me realize that I didn't want to come back, quote unquote, more productive. I wanted to come back more intentional. And that, I set that intention in the beginning. Like, I don't necessarily want to come back more productive or like with a stronger fire in my belly to get shit done. It wasn't about getting shit done when I got back. It was about removing myself from the world that I've been in so heavily in for years so I could come back with a new perspective and be more intentional. And I think that at the end of the day is exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. So on that note, I feel ridiculously good about it. And with that newfound intention, I'll tell you right now, things are changing. And I feel really good about the shifts and things that are going to begin changing within my business and the way I do business, because it came from a place of pumping the brakes outside of my regular, looking at the forest. I've just completely removed myself from the forest, right? They always say, you're in the weeds, you're looking at the trees, you really need to step back, look at the forest. I just completely removed myself from the whole dang thing. And then I came back to look at the forest and it just had this brand new picture for me, whole new world, essentially. I won't get into the details of what is changing and shifting and all that. I'll certainly give you a heads up of what that all is soon. But it feels really great to sit here knowing that those decisions and those shifts and those intentional changes within my business are happening from this place and not from the place of I've been working my ass off for the last 2 years and now I feel like I need to change it again. Some things are changing and it's going to be so rad and I cannot wait to share it all with you and know that all of it is coming from this place. I feel like this new enlightened place of removing myself from the comfortable, from the known, from the regular and the scheduled, and this new cool place that I've discovered that looked like a sabbatical. Feels super cool. I hope that you have enjoyed this review. And for sure, if you have any other questions regarding my sabbatical, how I prepared for it, how it went down, what I'm doing now because of it, whatever. If you have any questions, come hang out with me in our private Facebook group. Super easy to find, marketinginyogapants.com/Facebook. Get into that group, ask me any questions that you have. And if you have any insights or anything that resonated with you, any kind of response you have to this episode, I would love for you to come hang out with us in that Facebook group and share. I definitely want to know how this hit you. So please jump in there, let me know, let all of us know, and I'll talk to you then. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Keep the conversation going by visiting marketinginyogapants.com/Facebook, where you'll get to join that private Facebook group I've been talking so much about. There, you'll get to chat with our podcast guests. Yeah, they're in there too, and all of the other brilliant creative business owners. We're connecting, we're meeting our soul sisters, and we're building our businesses, all while in yoga pants. So come hang out with us. Again, visit marketinginyogapants.com/Facebook to get in. And one more thing. If you dig this podcast, would you be awesome and share it with someone? This entire Marketing in Yoga Pants movement is nothing without its community. So please share. And if you're really feeling the love right now, jump into iTunes. You're probably already there if you're listening to this right now. And leave us a rating and review. The more of those we rack up, the more the podcast will be found by ladies like you, and the stronger this community becomes. This episode was edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, so go find them at podcastengineers.com. This episode was also brought to you by my online marketing agency, Jam Marketing Group, and you can find us at jammarketinggroup.co. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Love ya. Bye.